Normal people become terrified of criminals.
Shots were just fired. Police just came out and told us, and we're headed there right now.
They become terrified of their own government.
Let's jump into the first story. We have this from Fox Business. The context is important. Harvard president's handling of anti-Semitism has cost the school more than $1 billion, according to Bill Ackman. Billionaire investor and influential Harvard alum Bill Ackman continued his push for his alma mater to terminate President Claudine Gay over the weekend, claiming her handling of anti-Semitism on campus since the October 7th terror attack by Hamas on Israel has cost the university more than $1 billion in donations. In a letter to Harvard's governing board of directors posted on the social media platform X on Sunday, Ackman argued Gay, quote, has done more damage to the reputation of the institution than any other individual in its nearly 500-year history, going through a litany of criticisms over her leadership, which he says has contributed to major donor withdrawals, significant gifts, withdrawing significant gifts that are adding up. Here's what's important. Let's break all this down because the articles themselves don't give you this context. USA Today says, Harvard President Claudine Gay to remain university leaders affirm support. This is somebody who right now, and we'll get into all the details, has been exposed as a plagiarist who should not be in this position, who does not have the merit, the skill, the capabilities. Many people are saying she's clearly a diversity hire. This is an individual that has failed in regards to the hearing before Congress, has resulted in a loss of over $1 billion. By any metric, this person should be fired.
Yeah.
They will not fire her. And why? Because the only actual metric Harvard cares about, are you woke? Are you a member of our religion? And if you are, nothing else matters. While the rest of us look to Harvard and think it's some higher education institution, one of the best, it's not. It's a church of the woke. And so the actual job description for this woman is to be a woke proselytizer. So when she's faced with mounting criticism, the board of directors and all of these other people say, okay, what are they criticizing her about? Oh, she's costing us money. She's engaged in a plagiarism scandal. They actually covered up a major scandal. We'll get into that in a bit. And then they go, okay, but that's not her job description. Is she advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion? Yes, she's fine.
Yeah. It's remarkable to see this happening. Harvard still has $50 billion in their endowment. So I don't think they're hurting any way at all. But it's absolutely incredible to watch this play out in real time and wonder what is the purpose of this university, right? There was another study that came out today that Yale, the majority of the students at Yale all got A's last semester. Yeah. And you say, well, if everyone that gets A's, I mean, these universities don't really seem to have any sort of academic purpose. I like that you're liking them to a church. That's the best way to put it.
You pay money.
And like a church, like if your parents are members, you become a member.
I would say they're more like a hedge fund with an indoctrination center. Or even just a factory that produces the woke mind virus. But it's interesting to see them kind of eat themselves and attack themselves on this very divisive issue that is Israel, when for many years now, they were being very discriminatory. They were being very racist. They were violating the civil rights of individuals because of the way that they were born. And everyone was okay with that. Now that we have the conflict in Israel, people are like, okay, now we got to really have to deal with this issue, which I find very peculiar at this specific time.
I find it peculiar that
I'll take it. No, go ahead.
No, if you replaced Israel or anti-Semite with any other minority group, and this was the question facing the university president, it would be a different story. Can you have call for genocide against trans members on Harvard campus?
No.
If she did not stand up, if she didn't lie down in solidarity with a die-in on the quad, if she didn't forcefully condemn this before, she would have been fired within seconds.
But you can for white people that are technically a minority on the world's population, and then that's totally okay, 100%. And that's totally fine.
Yeah. But then Bill Ackman actually calls them out for this too. There are a lot of people that are like, oh, these wealthy billionaires didn't say anything when these universities were discriminating against white people and conservatives. But now that it's the Jews, they're coming out. And no, these billionaires actually are coming on saying like, we didn't realize. And you know what? I'll take it. Look, not everybody cares about what you care about. And there's a guy who's dumping tons of money to university, not paying attention. Then it affects something he cares about, Israel. I'm not going to get mad at that. I'm going to say, welcome to the fight. Yeah. Thank you for finally paying attention and calling this out. This is what made you, this is what impacted you. Okay, well, take a look at what everyone else is complaining about. Oh, we agree. Awesome. Let's win.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was to your point, Tim. I was listening last night. You guys talk about Bud Light, and that's another example. When you have people that are looking, that have noticed that there is a problem that you have been making noise about, right? You don't attack them and say, oh, now, and push them away. You welcome them into the fold so that way you have more people on your side, because the whole point of the culture war is not to get rid of the people that disagree. And this was something that Jordan Peterson made this point about conservatives, the way that the left had been treating conservatives. What are you going to do with all the Donald Trump voters if you beat Donald Trump? They're still Americans, and that's something that we have here in the U.S. Most of the division, in my opinion, has been driven by the ideological left pumping out ideologically motivated people, and they have lied to your average Democrat, your average left-leaning liberal person. So they're still right-leaning because liberals are kind of right-leaning. The left is actually a totally different philosophy. So your average left-leaning liberal has been lied to and has been tricked into believing that woke is the continuation of the civil rights movement, which it is not. It is a totally different tradition.
It's the exact opposite of that transition, as it promotes discrimination against individuals for the way that they were born.
100%, absolutely, yes, and they're waking up to that, and we need to welcome them back into the America-loving liberal society that we all are looking to get back to. We talk about all the time. We talk about we want to get rid of the woke. We want to get rid of all this bad ideology. And now is a great opportunity to bring people back into the American mindset, where America is not always bad and that it's not always just dump on the liberal mindset.
Dave Portnoy announced he will not hire anybody from Harvard, MIT, or UPenn until these people are fired. He then said, "Good." I think he's pulled back on UPenn because they did have the board member and the president resign. But he specifically called her out and was like, "I'm not going to hire anybody. Your degree's worthless. Anybody who currently works for me." He was asked, "Did you have people applying?" And he's like, "Well, I have people who work here now, but they're grandfathered in. Anybody else, I will not hire you because of that degree."
James Lindsay was making a very similar argument, saying only then, when people stop hiring these people, is when we could have a big cultural difference here, because that degree won't matter anymore. That prestige won't mean anything anymore because they actually just shot themselves in the foot. Now, there's a lot of degrees of hypocrisy, especially when it comes to saying, yeah, you can hate on this group, you can't hate on this group. Oh, now we're in trouble for hating on this group. But still, I want to go back a little bit here. There's a lot of other individuals like Cassandra McDonald making the argument here, hey, we should also be careful because we still want to protect freedom of speech. What do you guys make of the argument here saying, hey, whatever these policies are, I don't care, freedom of speech still should be protected here. Is this freedom of speech, and should it be protected?
Dave Portnoy was asked about their stance, and he said, no, you should not be allowed to call for the genocide of a group of people. That's where you're getting into harm and violence, et cetera, et cetera. I disagree with him. I agree with his position that these people are hypocrites, they're liars, they're cheaters, they're thieves, and you should not hire people who are coming from these universities. And I will say that to whatever extent I can. If you got Harvard on your resume, I'm throwing it in the trash. Yeah. It's not like we're hiring, like crazy or anything like that. Contractors, whatever. I'm avoiding all of that. These are corrupt institutions. I suppose it depends on how long ago you were there or whatever. But no, I agree with what each and every one of these individuals said to a certain degree. They said the Constitution, the right of the individuals to have their opinion. If it's getting to the point where you're harassing an individual, that breaks the rules. I completely agree with that. What I don't agree with is that these people are lying and spitting in our faces. They scream, no pronouns. You have to use our pronouns. They scream no fat phobia. They will ban you from campus. They will shut your speech down. And then the moment it comes to a call for genocide of the Jews, they all of a sudden say, "Oh, the Constitution." Yeah. And I'm like, you are right, the Constitution. Now screw yourself. I'm not defending you.
When are you going to make a fat phobia shirt? Because fat phobic lives matter too. Fat lives matter too. I don't know what we have.
I have a different point of view. I have the exact opposite perspective.
I'm joking.
We might get in trouble here on YouTube if I express it.
It gets complicated because
I've saved that.
It gets complicated because the First Amendment clearly says Congress shall make no law. Right? Harvard is a private institution. It has its own laws, and that's why the Congresswoman Elise Stefanik asked a very good question. She didn't say it is a violation of free speech. She said, "Is it a violation of your code of ethics. And as a private institution, it can make its own laws. And Harvard is a private institution saying calling for violence violates our code of ethics. Well, when you say Antifada from the river to the sea, you're calling for violence. So that's why it was really like connect the dots. Congresswoman Stefanik set her up perfectly to give a very good answer that was clear. All she did was unravel this cluster disaster of wokeness.
This is all awesome.
It was brilliant.
All of this, the story, everything. This is why it's the lead. Ladies and gentlemen, when Harvard this morning, when the news broke that they said unequivocally, we will not fire this woman, I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
That's the message we want to share with everybody. They lie. They are hateful. They are racist. They are plagiarists. Your kids going to these schools will not be better off. They will be manipulated, indoctrinated. And when proof was there that this person should not have this job, they said, screw off.
Yeah. Remember when the NAACP sent out an announcement saying that no African Americans should go to Florida, right? They should just boycott the whole state of Florida.
Someone else an LGBT group just did that the other day. I saw it on Twitter. Same exact thing.
They're raising money to get people out who are gay or trans out of Florida.
Will someone
There's
do the same for Harvard?
Fundraiser.
Will the Anti-Defamation League, will Abe Foxman, will one of these Jewish groups start an actual boycott of Harvard to say we call on all Jews to boycott Harvard? Because clearly it is a danger. I mean, that was the NAACP's argument for Florida. You are endangering yourself if you go to this state. Well, clearly, if you're Jewish, you're endangering yourself if you go to Harvard.
I got to be honest. I'm not big on wanting to hire college graduates as it is. So I don't care if it's Harvard.
I didn't go to college.
Yeah, I don't care if it's Harvard or...
If you go to the sciences, if you hire a college graduate that went to one of the hard sciences or that studied something real, but if you're just hiring someone
they still teach them woke trash, even in those sciences.
They have to. Yeah. I understand that, but that's something that we're going to have. That's something that actually has to be addressed by culture, though. Because you get people that go and they study them, they'll major in something, then they'll minor in some kind of woke thing, and so that they're laying like a groundwork or at least a tertiary knowledge of the ins and outs of the woke ideology. And that's something that has to be changed by the nightly comedy shows, the late night shows, not reinforcing that stuff will do a lot.
Well, a lot of the woke stuff has a lot to do with the revisioning of capitalism. It also goes all the way back to David Rockefeller pushing a whole bunch of huge money into higher institutions of learning that he was able to influence, that of course undermines the very kind of capitalism that put him in the position of power that he was in, that of course he was manipulating and abusing for his own personal benefit. So this has roots going back many, many years ago, and now we're seeing the kind of formation of it, and it kind of just falling on its face right now with this Harvard kind of controversy, as now we are finally being exposed to the true kind of hatred and nature of this socialistic leftist brainwashing campaign that now finally is being called out.
There's one thing I want to... You mentioned James Lindsay a little while ago. And
we just had him on the show. That's why we just had a conversation.
I'm a huge fan, and I've mentioned him a lot, and I'm going to mention him again because right now, the best thing about them allowing the president to stay at Harvard is it really shines a light on the fact that we are living in the logic of Herbert Marcuse's repressive tolerance. The argument made in that piece is that it's okay to do whatever you want if you're on the left, and the right must be suppressed at even the level of thinking right-wing thoughts. And to the left, at least on college campuses now, everyone that's not left of them is the right and must be censored and has to be shut down. So it's good to, like, I'm with Tim. I think this is good that they're standing behind her. It's good that she's not stepping down. It's good that Harvard is doing this, so that way it shines a light on it. Exactly. And so that way the American people can see, all right, we do have a real problem in the United States.
Now let's focus on MIT, that also has intelligence agency connections, and let's expose that whole larger problem.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.